Everyone. I am going to be doing the review portion of our roundtable this week for the Everyday Talk and Convincing Conversation Utilizing Strategic Internal Communication by Leah M. something Hodgins and Colin R. Baker. First part says describe the study's methodology and results. So her primary both Hodgins and Baker use a variety of references throughout their study. Secondhand method of looking up at past studies, so researching what has already been researched. And they also highlight a few quotes from a few main speakers. So they highlight a few people that they bring up a few, like McKinsey and Company, and let's see. No, we all read it. We know, like, Clark is one that is brought up pretty frequently. So they also put, let's see here, they also put certain organizations with scandals that were publicized, such as Hobby Lobby as the floor runners. So they brought up a lot about leading by example. So in their leading by example, they showed Hobby Lobby and how they should have dealt with their organizational indifferences and approaching employees on how to approach customers and how to talk about it. So they brought all that. And then, how was the study conducted and why were the particular methods chosen? Highlight key results from the study. So utilizing what key views from known scholars in the field, Hodgins and Baker were able to sort the article in an organized, cohesive manual kind of a way, listing common errors found in organizations and what can be done to fix it. They really separate their article with stepping stones and common stumbling blocks, and then moving on to bigger things such as organizational dishonesty, things like that. So they separate everything up very well to make it easy and well read. The methods that they chose to highlight the key issues commonly found within dysfunctional as well as functional organizations look like. A few key results that I found were they looked at the internal resources as being the number one thing that companies and organizations should focus on the most. This one I kind of found to be very much helpful in understanding even places that I have worked at in the past and am currently working at, where they focus on outsiders and what the outsiders think about the organization rather than focusing on, well, if we make it a habitable, like, nice place for everybody to work and happy to work there, then those people represent us in the positive light. Whereas some organizations they focus on outsiders more and leaving what was it? I was talking about the brand, the internal brand, and saying, like, the brand should come from people that work there and not a structured idea of what outsiders want. It should come from people that work there and can present it in a way that they're excited about it rather than having to do it. They also talk about withholding information from employees, which I thought was a big one because it creates enemies within organizations, and enemies is more along the lines of saying that if you withhold information from your employees, you're going to have pissed off employees at one point. They're not going to be pleased that they weren't told about possible layoffs and weren't kept into the loop, leaving an imbalance of superiority within the organization. Which also kind of goes into the open door policy, which I also thought was a cool thing to highlight in there, because we've all had those jobs where they say, hey, we have an open door policy, but it was also one of those things that if you were to approach your manager or boss about a specific issue that has been bothering you, you're on edge about talking about because there might be repercussions, rather than the open door policy being a actual open door policy where you can talk about your discrepancies within the organization itself and there be an actual positive result, which goes into the positive everyday talk, which they mentioned throughout the article. The positive everyday talk I found to be pretty important. It's very rare that in organizations you constantly hear like, hey, great job today, you know, but because typically it's more like, hey, we need to do this to make it better, rather than being like, oh, this is what you're doing well, keep that up. But yeah, and then we have present the author's conclusion and their perspectives on the study results, including explanations of inconsistent or unexpected result. So their ending was actually very well put together in a nice little area at the end. They provide further studyable questions that still need to be answered to put together and find the best solutions in organizations that still need help understanding. So even in the last part, they said, we have discussed several communication, context, and content issues that can influence everyday talk. Researchers can find it fruitful to examine how employees dismantle or organizations' rhetoric through such mediums. Additionally, access to training and development and reward structures are likely to impact the way employees experience organizational life and therefore discuss it. So I like that they included other questions that could be researched to further on to the study and add on. So, yeah, that's the review, and thank you guys, and have a great rest of your day.